How you doing? Chris's Comments, a show about common sense on common ground, no matter what the subject. Today's subject, whoa, that stuff that's going on in Myanmar. Guys, you gotta take it down a notch. Okay? You gotta seriously take it down a notch. You gotta stop with the killings and calm down. You really want to get even with those people? Make them citizens. And have a tax legislation in effect. Make them pay taxes to your country the way we here in the States make them pay taxes. That'll actually calm them down, and then you won't see any problems. You'll hear them bitch and complain, sure, but everybody does that. Just look at us over here in America. Now, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, Myanmar has had a long history of discriminating against Muslim Myanmarans. Okay, they were also had a long time, both Muslim Myanmarans and ordinary Myanmarans. They've had enough discrimination held against them throughout the time of colonial rule, royal rule, as far back as 1900. And what I mean by this is England took control over them, over Burma at the time, before it was transformed into Myanmar, and did all this great industry and all this good stuff, and trade business and all that. But much like the way America does now, there's a lot of overseas work with it, and a lot of transfers from other countries into the country that they're working with, and that entailed a lot of currency knowledge, education, language knowledge, business knowledge, business education that the Myanmarans just didn't have, or the Burmans just didn't have. So a lot of transfers, transfer workers, and people that uplifted to move into Burma had moved in. They had job transferred in, took over the factories and the industries and all this good stuff, while Burmans were sort of being more and more rubbed out, as is with transition in such a manner. And that was another way, one of the early stages of discrimination to that country's own indigenous natives, their peoples. Now, 100 years have gone by, 100 plus years gone by, from 1900 to 2017, where Burmans seriously, now Myanmarans, seriously had enough problems. They just plain had enough. And in August of 2017, they launched attacks. Now, these are still Burman people, just not declared citizens, no right to vote, not even the right to have a mosque created for themselves for their Muslim religion. They had enough, and they lashed out. They attacked a total of 30 police stations. A full assault on them. And that, from that point till now, started this chain reaction of just power struggles between those people, the Myanmar Muslims, and the rest of the Myanmarans, whether they be Christian or Buddhist. And the reason why I mention them is because a lot of the military, the Myanmar military, who's now doing a lot of these killings, they're being backed up by the Buddhists, Myanmar Buddhists, towards these Myanmar Muslims. And along with that is coming quite a few atrocities. I mean, we're talking some serious crap. We're talking inflictions all the way up to murders of all ages to top it all off. And it's got to be turned down a notch. I mean, if you guys, honestly, from this little guy's perspective, you know, I'm a guy that comes out here just throwing these comments. I don't even have a podcast. I'm just throwing these comments out there for everybody for anybody that's even listening. Honestly, if you really want this to stop, make them citizens. Make them citizens and have them pay taxes no differently than you guys do. If you have a tax system, set up a tax system. You'll hear a bunch of complaining, but yeah, take it from us over here in the West. You know, that's about all that it's going to be going on. With the exception, what happened with 9/11 was an extremist viewpoint from an entirely different country. A bunch of hype and BS that was laid upon a bunch of people that didn't even know what this country was about were sent over here to attack this country. The rest of the time, the Muslims and Islamic people, they're just people that are grouchy people. They don't like taxation. They want their own rules. They want their own laws. They want their own religious laws. This thing called Sharia law, which is just as not going to happen here in the States. And for the record, for those of you who don't know, technically the Myanmar Muslims have their own religion, their own language, their own culture that willfully discriminates against the rest of Myanmar. So there's quite a few people that are not saying it yet, but more than likely you're going to be hearing they get what they deserve, the get what they deserve speech because of this. You know, their Sharia law, I don't know what they call it over there, but it's a Sharia law in Myanmar, and that, you know, there's going to be a lot of people that say, hey, they got what they deserved, you know, which really they shouldn't, because it's bad enough where they actually stand just off of a Muslim organization. You know, we have this thing called the American Red Cross, and it's a humanitarian effort thing for, you know, against disasters. They have a thing called Red Crescent, which technically I had to look up. It is that weak by comparison to the Red Cross, you know. And technically they run to Amnesty International, the Muslims that want to do good. There is no such thing as a Muslim or Islamic Amnesty International. There's just some Muslim people or Islamic people that come over here and join us, you know, the West Amnesty International. You know, and it sounds bad, you know, and I don't mean to smile, but it's the truth. They don't measure up to us. You know, all that hate, all that talk, all that preaching about being the chosen one and the actual really belief of God and the actual chosen ones by God, and they just can't do squat by comparison. Well, at least not by comparison to us. You know what I'm saying? You know, so, you know, there's a lot of people that say, you know, they get what they deserve. You really shouldn't. You really shouldn't, because they're getting hit pretty hard. They're facing close to genocidal results, you know, and there's really nothing they can do about it, or at least not much by comparison to what we can do. I mean, look at us. We're over here housing children at our borders. We're vetting them. We're processing them. You know, we've got all sorts of good stuff going on. We can manage that. That's just how good we are at it. That's just how great we are. And we're supposedly not the chosen ones. We're supposedly the ugly Americans. We're nowhere near nothing like the beautiful people over there. No complaints. No complaints. So, you know, yeah, let's back to the ones over there in Myanmar. I mean, guys, take it down a notch. You're going through very harsh extremes right now, and it's not even necessary. That's the reason why we've got all these political leaders, the UK, the people of the Europe, and our Joe Biden who are saying, you know, we appall this. We're not going to go over there, but we're appalled by this. We really wish that it would stop, you know, and all this other stuff. And you know, they don't want to seem liable for anything, and rightly so. You know, Biden, the Queen of England, all the leaders over there, the German, that German president guy, the one that actually accepted Muslims from, I can't remember, Syria, I think. The Iranians, or the ones that were being run out of Iranian by ISIS. You know, you have even Germany that's not really saying much, because they really don't want to look liable for the simple fact that this was one of our allies that ruled, the British Kingdom, that ruled Myanmar for over 100 years, and then who's left that country in shambles, along with all of us over here in the West. You know, they're left to do their own things. And so now all anybody can do is say, I'm shocked, despite the fact that, well, technically it shouldn't be a shock. You know, the rule over there was supposed to be like over here. We were supposed to make their country like ours, and it's nowhere near it. Nowhere near it. You got people that are actually still being oppressed, that are still fighting out of hate, that are still uniting with other religious dominated cultures to take them on. And, you know, over here, yeah, it's Christian dominated, but we're not doing anything like that. We're not doing anything near genocidal acts towards anybody Muslim. You know, they've got it so good here that they want to bitch about, they want to complain that there's no Sharia law. You know, their culture, their laws in accordance to their culture, their rules, their way, regardless of ours, regardless of our laws. You know, let me tell you, this country keeps church and state separate. What in the world are we doing? Our own churches separate. What in the world are we doing making a pathway for you guys? That's not going to happen. Sorry, guys. That's not going to happen. But we've got these this thing going on right now where it's just come way too harsh. They got to step it up with calming everything down. And then really, if they really want to teach these Myanmar Muslims a lessons, they should give them rights. They should give them citizenship. This way, every time they complain about, you know, their culture and their language, they want their language, they want their culture, they want their religious, they want their laws in accordance to religion, then Myanmar actually has a foot to stand on, has a leg to stand on when they say, hey, this is our democracy. If you don't like it, leave. No differently than the way we do here in the States. See, we can say that because we let them believe whatever the hell they want. We let them speak whatever language that they want. You know? This is the universal language here is English. So if they want to get around, need to do this, that's fine. That's what they'll learn. Nobody expects them to not speak any other English other than Myanmar over there. But if they want to speak their own language, I don't see why not. Just don't discriminate and say that this is against them, when you know full well the Myanmaran language is the dominant language to know. Nobody in Iranian is saying to hell with Saudi Arabia because they speak Arabic. You know, Arabic is the dominant language over there. Same thing with Yemen and Lebanon, Egypt. Arabic, the Egyptians didn't speak Arabic. They spoke their own language before everything turned Arabic. You know? And if you want to learn how to speak Egyptian, by all means, speak Egyptian. If you want to know how to do it, pray like an Egyptian, go for it. But you all know full well that if you're going to be in Saudi Arabia, Iran, Lebanon, Yemen, or any other place that's Arabic dominated, that's the language that you got to know. That's the dominant language to speak. No differently than here in the States, or in the UK, or in Australia, or in New Zealand, or in certain parts of Holland, Holland or wherever Amsterdam is at. Holland? I think it's Holland. Or Belgium. You know? Those dominated languages are the dominated languages. Plain and simple. And if Myanmar really, really wants to teach these Myanmaran Muslims a lesson, they would give them citizenship. They would make them pay taxes just like us over here in the States. And they would know that the dominant language over there is whatever the Myanmaran country says, regardless of however many languages you want to know, or however many languages the Myanmar Muslims want to make their own. That would be irrelevant. You know? We don't tell the Navajo to stop speaking Navajoan. No, that's their right to speak their ancestral language. You know, you don't tell me not to speak Nahuatl or Nawat, as a lot of people are saying, a silent L. L being a letter out of the alphabet. So where the hell the silent comes from, I don't know. But that's a different debate. That's a different debate. You don't tell me not to speak Nahuatl. I speak what I want to speak. But I am understanding that this is an American country and an American language is the dominant language. To say that this country needs to learn how to speak my language, well, my ancestors' language, well, that's another subject also. I'm sure there's quite a few indigenous natives like myself with the ancestral heritage here, the ancestral heritage. Huge difference between those of you that can call us. And for the record, those that want to call themselves Native Americans just because they are native to America, let them. Let them. They're not indigenous, but they can't call themselves Native Americans. You know, they come from England or whatever. That's fine. That's fine. Let them call themselves Native Americans because that's what they are now. But don't think that they have more rights than we do, or that they're not cheating our culture out of our culture, cheating us out of our culture because of one primary rule of thumb, and that these Native Americans are not exactly indigenous Americans. So therefore, we who are of indigenous based, well, we still have the right to claim that this land was stolen. So, and as far as over there in Myanmar, well, the Myanmar Muslims know full well that they may be native Myanmarans, but they're not indigenous Myanmarans. They themselves have openly claimed that they are descendants of Arab traders and Arab merchants. Okay? They are openly admitted to that. So to call themselves citizens right now doesn't make any sense. They should be called citizens if they are actual Myanmaran citizens, born and raised. Okay? Not necessarily through ancestry, but born and raised. No differently than I should be able to call myself a Myanmaran if I was actually born there and raised there. Currently, they're not. And again, I really wish the Myanmarans would lower their guns and resort to the National League of Democracy, the NLD, on what they're saying to make everybody citizens and find a peaceful way to do that. Well, they didn't say that, but to come to peaceful terms is what they said. It's just clear in my mind. It's just clear in anybody else's mind. You know, you really want to teach anybody a lesson, you go for their wallet. Because that's really all that talks these days. You know, make them citizens. Make them citizens. Let them sign the voter registration and everything. Have them pay their taxes. Have them complain about community doctors and community hospitals over private, or that they should be a pain, that they're a pain in the ass, and that we should all go private, and all this other crap, that we go through over here. Then we could say, "Welcome to the fold." But yeah, Myanmar right now really, really needs to just chill. They need to let their brains do their talking. And stop with the guns, and the military leaders, they need to chill out. They're looking kind of like the Zetas right now. And the junta, the military should have gotten rid of the junta first, to be totally honest. Because they've been kicking Myanmar Muslims' butts all up and down throughout the course of history. The junta, who are these, horrible people that have forced slave labor, even on kids, who have used sex as a weapon of war, rape as a weapon of war. I mean, they're anybody that's junta the military should have just rooted out, first out of their military, then out of their government, long before they started hitting the Myanmar Muslims. The Myanmar Muslims, need to, I hear they're making their way to Bangladesh, which is fine. Which again rings up as to, well, where the heck is the Red Crescent? For everybody down here, just get ready for it. Get ready for it. The media right now is saying, oh my God, these poor Myanmarans are being attacked by the military. Well, technically the military is Myanmaran. And the Myanmarans have been oppressed by the British since, for over 100 years. When is enough? Well, technically, it's the Myanmaran Muslims that are getting hit by Myanmarans. So before you start to hear it, just understand that right now, and understand that the Myanmarans, they seriously need to reconfigure what they're doing. They need to stop with the genocidal styled attacks on a particular religion, a particular group of people based off of their religion. That's always been a bad way to go. It's always been proven failure time and time again throughout the course of history. So that's pretty much it right now. That's the highs and the lows of it for everybody out there. Before you start hearing the rhetoric, because right now even people of rhetoric aren't saying anything. They're pretty quiet about it. It's a big jumbled mess. It's difficult to understand. But you read into the gist of everything, and you get into a little bit of the history as well as what's going on now, how that was affected through history up till now. And you can clearly see where they're going right, where they're going wrong, where they should be going in an entirely different direction altogether. But yeah, that's the gist of it right there. It's too extreme right now. They seriously need to quit their stuff, and they seriously need to actually they need to start living up to actual ways of peace. And if they really, really, really want to treat them a lesson, let's just be honest. Make them citizens. Make them tax-paying, voting citizens. And the complications the complications alone of those right there will settle them down. It'll settle them down. into nothing but to where they really won't have any kind of a valid excuse to go through the extremities. This whole attacking the police stations, and fighting and rebelling and secrecies and underground and the Juta, and all this good stuff. All of that, they'll have no solid leg to stand on once treated like equals and once forced to have to live like an equal. Because as we all know, once you get your citizenship, it's not an excuse to be a douche. You have responsibilities, and you have to tend to those responsibilities. Crying, griping, and lashing out is not a valid excuse anymore. It won't be. And it won't be an excuse anymore, and it won't be an excuse anymore or less than it is here in the States. You had a lot of people lashing out, and they're expecting to be considered justified when we know full well they're not, and they should have known better to begin with also. But the stuff that's going on here, it's still light. It's a couple of incidences here and there, as opposed to a way of life that's going on over there in Myanmar. So that's the long and the short of it. I hope everybody had a great weekend, and I hope that you all have a good rest of the week. I have no clue as to whether or not I'm going to be jumping back on here. I really hadn't even planned on it, but the situation has gotten worse over there, and it's getting a lot more harsher. So who knows? I mean, this might have me joining another, donation campaign or something like that, like so many others out there that see a problem out of all of this and wish nothing but the best to overcome, for love to win. So that's it right there. Hope everybody's okay, and you can take my comments any which way you'd like. If you have to say something, go ahead, but please stay on subject, okay? There's already been a couple of people that just went off with their tirades. They got barred out. I didn't even block them. The community guidelines people did, and so they're obviously paying attention to what I'm requesting. The person on this site is requesting. Stay on subject, okay? Just stay on subject, whatever it is that you got to say. Try not to go into any kind of tirades or whatever, okay? Just be cool. Or no, just be focused, regardless as to whether or not you can be cool. All right? That's it for now. Y'all take it easy. This is Chris. Chris's Comments. Signing it.